Hi, here I am back again with yet another listening comprehension exercise about my weary traveller's tales. This is Susan Broder from Speak Languages and Travel the World, here to help you improve your English with minimum effort and maximum benefit. It's been 4 years since I last recorded my traveller's tales as a listening comprehension exercise, and I find that they are very amusing stories, so they make for very good listening exercises because they're not boring, and you can practice with some listening comprehension questions. But this time I'd like to give you the questions in advance so that you can listen out for the information. I find it's easier to understand it if you already know what the questions are going to be. So let's start with question number 1. Why is it sometimes risky to travel by airplane in far-off countries? Question number 2. Were there many airplanes on the runway? Question number 3. What kind of air conditioning were we given? Question number 4. Who was worried about the engine? Question number 5. Who reassured me that the plane was safe? So, as you can guess, this is all about an airplane. In 1987, I flew to China and visited China in the days when it was only just open to tourists, so to individual tourists. Before that, you could travel in a group, but you had to see what they wanted to show you. In 1987, they opened it to individual travelers, and it was an amazing experience because the locals were not used to individual travelers. Therefore, we were as much an attraction as they were for us, and at the same time, we were using tourist money because in those days there was a higher exchange rate for money that tourists exchanged, so they printed some special tourist money, and when we used the tourist money to pay for things, they would turn the money around because they didn't recognize it and they could only give us the change in their own money. So after that we would be spending their money too. It was quite a tricky situation. However, it was the most wonderful experience ever traveling in a remote area. So we flew to Kunming, where we had some wonderful experiences because it was more remote, further away from big cities. I mean, Kunming was a big city, but it was further away from more modern life. They were living very traditionally, and it was really a fascinating experience. On the last day, we went to the airport, Kunming Airport, because we had to fly to Shan. But our flight, which was due at 12 a.m., so lunchtime, we sat there and we waited and waited and waited, and we weren't actually allowed onto the plane until about 4 p.m. So we did start worrying about it. We couldn't understand why we were waiting so long to get on the plane. However, finally, they allowed us on the plane. We sat down, and it was sweltering. It was really, really hot. So they passed us some air conditioning. We were 40 passengers. It was a very small plane, a 2-propeller plane. And we were given fans, and we could fan ourselves with this fan that they had given us. I should have a photo of the fan still. As we were fanning ourselves, the pilots got on board. They went into the cockpit and we waited. Suddenly they turned on the engines, and one engine went round very, very fast and the other one was going around at half speed. They turned off the engines and they turned them on again, and they did this repeatedly for about 7-8 times, and the second engine never reached full speed. Therefore, we waited a little longer, and the 2 pilots just got up and walked out. So we looked at the hostesses and they said, no, we have to leave the airplane, and we went back to the departure lounge and waited. Now, the departure lounge had a huge glass window, and this airplane, which had stood on the deserted runway because it was the only airplane at the airport, was pulled up towards our area so we could see it It was in front of the hangar, but we could see it very well from the window of the departure lounge. And they put a ladder up to the engine and they started dismantling it. So they just opened two flaps and started pulling out bits. And it gave the impression that they were saying it could be this, or it could be that, it could be this, or it could be that. And it wasn't at all reassuring. We were quite worried because after a while they piled all the bits back in again and closed the flaps, tried the engine, and apparently it was working. I'm not afraid of flying, but we were quite worried whether it was a good idea to get onto the plane or not. However, there was an ex-American pilot who said, no, the pilots will not get onto the plane if it's not safe. So he reassured us that he was optimistic and that we shouldn't have anything to worry about. So a while later we were told to get back onto the plane. The plane departed, and 3 hours later we arrived at our destination in Shan, and it all worked fine. But I must admit it was the first time in my life where I was a little bit skeptical. Should we or shouldn't we get onto the plane? This is the story. Now let me repeat the questions for you to answer in the comments below. Question number 1. Why is it sometimes risky to travel in far-off countries? Question number 2. Were there many airplanes on the runway? Question number 3. What kind of air conditioning were we given? Question number 4. Why was I worried about the engine? And question number 5. Who reassured me that the plane was safe? Please write the answers in the comments below. I'll put a link in the description where you can download the PDF so you have the questions and you'll be able to see the correct answers. I hope this listening comprehension was amusing for you and that it was useful. If you haven't already done so, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so that I can notify you every time I upload a new video. Keep your eyes peeled for the next listening comprehension regarding my weary traveller's tales of a long time ago. And that's all for today. Bye!